Off we go. I've got my paper very slightly tilted at an angle just to help the water flow a little bit, and you should be able to see my mixing palette here. So I'm going to mix up some colours first because it makes it so much easier in the long run. They might just be actually the colours that I'm using, but I want to get a fairly good amount of pigment. And I'll mix from there a lot of the time. I'm going to use another brush for my blue. I'm going to put it in here. It's just a thinner mix than the one I've got up at the top. First of all, I want a soft glow across the background. I want to kind of warm my picture up. So I've got some of this on my brush, and I'm going to take, it's going to be too bright. So I'm just going to dull it down a bit with a little bit of this. And I need to check my colours as I go along. It's quite a nice soft amber glow, maybe even lighter. Right, okay. So with a clean brush, I'm going to come all the way down first with clean water. So I want to wet my paper. All the way across. If you've got good paper, it does need quite a lot of water. If you've got cheap paper, it's going to start buckling and you'll get flakes coming off it. You should always practice with the best paper that you have, because otherwise how will you ever learn how to paint a proper picture on it if you don't know how it behaves with your paints? That's my lecture of the day. Right, so I'm going to start up here with my mix. I'm just going to bring it down, trying to keep a fairly flat colour to it. I want to work fairly quickly because I don't want it all to start drying off. And I'm going to bring that all the way down. If I've got some sparkles on my water, it doesn't matter. But I'm really just letting, put a bit more water on there, letting the water dilute the colour. A little bit more of my rose in some areas down here, and I'm going to make it a little bit grayer in some areas, so I'm just adding in a little bit of blue. Got a bit purple now. I'll just add in some darker bits. And I'm going to put my horizon right across while it's still very, very wet. That's my furthest line. And I'm going to leave that to dry, because if I keep going, I'm going to end up with some bits and pieces I don't want. I will put some reflection in, so I'm going to dry off my brush, and while it's still a little bit wet, I'm going to come down here and just add in where I'm going to have some trees. They're not in there yet. That's the start of the reflection. And stop. So because you've only got 3 colours in here, it should keep it fairly, it should look like it's got some continuity. It should all hang together nicely. It gives it harmony, that's the word I'm looking for. Now if I want some clouds, I can take a clean brush and I can lift out some clouds. So it's clean, it's damp. I'm just rolling it as well as I go. I'll pick up that, or that'll give me a run back. So make sure you pick up any wet around the edges of your paper. I've started to get a run back up there already. That's it. Now this is still slightly wet, so I'm going to go in with a little bit more pigment, sticking with the same colours, and I'm just going to mix up some variations. I've got a different colour in there actually, don't know where that's come from, so I'm going to start again. So that's a bit of blue, and add in some of my red, a bit more of my blue. It's a bit brown that. I want it a bit more purple. Just have to keep going slightly different. I don't want too much pigment, so I'm just brushing my brush off a little bit, and then I'm going to come along here, and hopefully it's not too dry. There we are, it's still running. That gives you that lovely soft effect. I want some little trees. I must remember to put my big trees where I've started my shadows. And I'm going to wash my brush off with some clean water. I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. And sweep up any extra. Stop fiddling, Julie. Right, this back has a little bit of dark in it too. I'm going to come in darker here as well, but just along this back there's a little bit. And I'm going to see if I can add a little bit more pigment to this to make it darker. without it running. As it dries, you see, it will run less and less. So we're layering. We're layering the darks over the lights to give the impression of foreground. I'm not happy with my reflections, but I can come back and do that a bit later. But I've got this on my brush, so I'm just going to use it a little bit down here just to add some texture in the water. It's fairly dry. Just softening this fraction. I'm going to bring it right across actually, because in the picture it comes right across and I don't want it to look weird. That's better. Just softening my tree edges. Not all of them. I'm going to go back to my clouds. This is pretty dry, so I want to drop in some clouds. So I want to go back to this more mauvey colour, so I might have to mix it up again a little bit. Actually, that looks like it's probably okay for some clouds. Yeah. But first I'm going to get a clean brush and I'm going to wash over this again so that I can drop my cloud colour in. It doesn't matter if it's not all wet, but I want to put a little bit of, that's it. Not too much. It's very hard to leave watercolours alone. Very hard. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. And I'm going to do a little bit more here with this mauvey blue. So it's very similar to the clouds, it's a little bit darker. Okay. Again, I'm going to get a clean brush and I'm going to make this bit along here wet so that I can drop in some of the shadow again. Let's be a bit darker than that. See, I'm using ultramarine, and ultramarine really spreads in wet, in paint. But I think that's a better reflection. dryer, come back in, same technique, just dry brushing, it's a little bit darker. Don't forget that would have a bit of reflection as well. Water here. I need to make sure that gets picked up and up here. So again, we're waiting for this to dry. You can use a hairdryer. I'm going to see if I can pull out some more clouds. Some of these colours stain, so it's not as easy to do it. Lifting that out. I'm going to do a slightly darker background over here. It ran a little bit too much. So. Right, so moving on, I might well come back and darken this up, but I'm going to put my boats in. So I have a pencil. I've got to make sure my paper's dry. I have a 0.1 waterproof fine liner, which is sort of the thinnest that you can get, I do believe. And I have a ruler because my mast went terribly wrong last time. So we just need to think about our boats as shapes. And if you're working from an iPad or something, it really helps if you can zoom in to get your shape correct. So I'm going to draw it in first. If I've got some light. And don't forget, it's going to be symmetrical. It's going to be mirrored underneath. And it's just a little shape. We often get really worried by boats. That's kind of going to disappear into there. And my other boat is over here. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect, it's a silhouette. As the faintest of lines, just so that I've got an idea. I can do it kind of as I go. Okay. I'm going to take my very small brush and try and paint it in now, but I need a dark mix. I'm going to start with a light mix in case it goes horribly wrong. So this grey that we had, and I'm going to go in with that first because then I can put darker over the top as well. So we'll put the lighter, she says that's too dark, we'll put the lighter one in first. The paint kind of separates out with these colours anyway, which makes it quite nice. Yeah, that'll do for that one. Once I've got the basics in. This is still slightly wet, I think, so it's run. Looks more like a Chinese junk. Don't despair. It's an impression. Once we're happy with the shape, we can add darker bits in. This is darker now. Make sure this is in line with the one underneath. That looks a bit rubbish. Never mind. It's very difficult to get it right where the paper's warped. Okay. So just keep working to darken up your areas using the same colours. You want them to stand out. You don't want them all the same value though. I'm going to put a little bit of water just in there to soften all of this. Okay, now I've got to wait for that to dry and then I'll be able to put in my mask, and I'm going to cheat and use a pen. So you can use this to do some of your little grasses. Keep them very delicate. And they will, don't forget, you'll have a reflection, so they won't look like they're just sitting on top of the water. And they're not all going to be straight up. Be smaller back here. Little tufts. I'm going to use my brush to put a little bit more of that in as well. So I want to try and dry brush some. Don't want it looking too uniform. And a bit of variation of colour as well. Okay, now my paper is buckled slightly, so if I'm going to do my mask, I need to be quite careful that I press the paper down. I need to make sure that it's dry enough to do it, firstly. And my boat there is quite wet, but I'm going to go ahead and have a go. So the mask, this on here, it comes out just there. And this is where I failed really badly last time, so I tried to do it with a paintbrush and my paper was all warped. And you can make that a little bit darker. Put a bit of wiggle in it down here. it to look like it goes right the way through the middle, but it does. And on the other side, do the same thing, make sure these are symmetrical. And let's have a go at some of these. Yeah, not, because it's a very thin pen, you can get away with it a little bit easier. It's much harder with a brush. Paint that out a little bit. So I didn't want it to look like it just went straight through. What else do I need to do? This is a bit more robust, to be honest. And I think the back of my boat might need to come out further in order for this to come down here. I think it does, doesn't it? So let's paint that in. I'm sure anybody watching this that is a keen sailor will be having fits about the way I'm doing this, because it doesn't look anything like a proper boat, but sorry. Soften that in. Not softening the top, because the top isn't reflection, but I'm just going to soften that a little bit. That's a bit better. I'm going to take this as well, because that's a bit rubbish. Well, I think I might call that a day, to be honest. Maybe not, maybe just a little fraction. Darken some of this up. That's it, so it looks a bit more like it runs into. I think I am still going to put a little bit more across the back. It's a little bit darker. That's better. Well, I think that just gives it a little bit more definition. And I think I am going to call that done. Thank you for joining me, and if you enjoyed it, do come and join me on another paint along.